Hello everyone, this is Scott Geider, also known as Gruesome Herzog. My very special guest is actor Andrew Roth. We are here in Reading, Pennsylvania. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing great, Scott.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you in face for the first time, but I think I've known you for a long time, brother.
Since 1981, we didn't know that. But I want to thank you for welcoming me here to Reading to meet you and to do our interview. The first film I want to talk to you about is Fright World in 2006. Now, I reviewed this film. There's quite a few, issues with the film that I had with it. I mean, I know it's low budget, but do you want to give the listeners an idea, who hasn't seen it, your experiences in Fright World?
Yeah, I played Jack LaCan, who was basically this investor who, he loves carnivals, he loves antiquities, and he finds this old carnival that he wants to, reinvent and get it all started again. But there's an evil spirit within the place that once we get the place up and running, it comes back to life, and it starts to kill my friends. It starts to chase us. We get locked into this warehouse, which is where the carnival is. It's an inside carnival. It was one of my second roles as a lead for the film, and it was a great experience. I worked with David Williams on that. I
interviewed Chris Arno-Torelli about this film, but Methodic. I'm a big slasher fan, as you know. I mean, I'm a big Halloween serial killer type. And I know that I reviewed Methodic and I had a couple of hecklers, they always say the same thing, it's a mock-off of Halloween.
Right.
Well, as you know, Halloween isn't the first slasher film.
Yeah.
Okay, just go ahead and give your experiences with Methodic.
Well, Chris Arno-Torelli and I have a long history. We're great friends. I work with Chris a lot. It was a wonderful experience because I also got to work with a friend, Thomas Daniel, on that film.
Cool guy.
Very great gentleman. He wanted to do it a little bit differently. He was using, instead of the general slasher flick, he wanted to use this guy doing with blunt force drama, punching, hits with a sledgehammer or hammer.
Right.
I had a nice role, like you said, but Simon Geller, it was a small one, in and out. Brandon Slagle was one of the mains of that.
Brandon.
Brandon.
And we'll talk about him a little bit later about another film that you were in with him.
Right.
But, like you mentioned with Methodic, a lot of slashers have the killers, but this was a little bit different. And I don't want to go in detail, but it was a good film and I really enjoyed it. And the next film, Kill or Be Killed, another Chris Arno-Torelli film. It's a short film. It's not a horror film. It's more like a gangster type film. And it's a short film with my boy, Roberto Lombardi.
Yeah.
I love the guy dearly. He's a damn good actor. He also played Freddy, as you already know. Yeah. Your experiences with Roberto. I mean, I seen the film, I interviewed Roberto, but he likes you and you like him. But give an idea of your character and his character. I mean, you had great chemistry in that short film.
Yeah, and again, that's he did a whole different take on this, Chris. Basically, I'm a hitman going on my first mark, and Robert's character pulls the carpet right out from underneath me. He invites me to a restaurant, and then asks me to sit down and have dinner with him. Yeah. And then this whole interesting ballet between the two of us starts to ensue.
Yeah, and that's the most impressive part of the short film is the chemistry, because I don't want to I guess I give it away because it's online.
Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube.
But, you started off as the hard ass, the hitman, let's go, let's get this done. But then he starts to manipulate you, and then you did a whole 360. And short films are purposed for one reason. The ending can go anywhere. It can stop or it can just go. And the ending I thought was brilliant because you knew what was going to happen if you let him go. But that's how I know that you are a very intense actor. You can do anything like you are now, that stare.
Sorry, I'll blink.
Sorry. But the next film I want to talk to you about, Praxis.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't seen this film, but I've seen pictures, and it kind of I didn't really go in detail what it was about, but do you want to give the listeners an idea what Praxis is about?
Yes, Praxis is directed and written by Alex Pacheco of Damaged Films in Washington, D.C. Brilliant director. It's a piece I'm very proud of. You can get that on Netflix. It's about a writer who is writer's block. He's addicted to pain medication. He's an alcoholic. And my character is kind of the embodiment of what he wishes to be. I'm an ex-military, a boxer, very strong, and he's very insular. He's trapped in his mind. He's got the writer's mind going on. And I can't really give it much more away than that, but the film is very difficult to follow. It's very much an art house film. It has 11 chapters, starts at chapter 10, jumps around back and forth, and you have to follow. Tom Macy plays the lead, and you have to follow his journey.
Okay. Now, there's quite a few directors that you've worked for. Jason Armstrong, Jason Whittier, and let's start with some of Jason's films. I mean, I can go everywhere with this, but go ahead and mention. I mean, I know I've interviewed. I talked about Backwater. I've talked about Jason Whittier's film Waterfront Nightmare. Now, give the listeners an idea of these films. I mean, you can go any order you want to, but I know you're good friends with Jason, so let's
Whittier
start with
or Armstrong.
Jason Armstrong. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Let's start with Jason Armstrong first.
Yes, Jason Armstrong of Skeleton Key Global Films, a great friend of mine. I've known him for years. We've every film that he has done essentially. I've been fortunate enough to be one of the players in it. The first one that we did 3 years ago was 48 Hours in Purgatory.
I want to see that.
Yes, that we're actually going to be doing a live a promotional piece in January, where we're actually going to bring two people in there. They're auditioning for it now. Nice. What happens in 48 Hours in Purgatory, in a nutshell, is my character, Brody Hawkins, is a controversial independent film director. And the Emily Alatalo plays my partner in the film, my producer.
I love her.
Yes, Emily is wonderful. Mm-hmm. You know, she basically comes up with the ideas. What we're going to do is we're going to put people in a room, and they have to face for 48 hours, and they have to face their own inner demons.
Okay.
But what happens with my character, because I have a very turbulent history, I'm forced to face my own inner demons as they go through theirs.
Okay.
That's going to be released very soon. And again, at the same time, we're actually going to have, right now, they're auditioning people to win a contest so that they can be in the room. And what we're going to do in January is I'm going back up to Canada, and we're going to do another thing for 48 Hours in Purgatory.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Skeleton Key is also the Skeleton Key Global are the producers of Abolition.
Right.
Which was written and directed by Michael Clausen, another piece that I'm very proud of.
Nice
I play
guy.
a young man named Joshua who's not really sure of his place in this world, and he has these powers that he's not aware of. And inadvertently, you know, when he tries to help people, he winds up hurting them. It's basically about doing the job of Joshua, which he doesn't want to do, which so many of us, you know, he has this responsibility, he doesn't want to face it. And by running from it, he causes more damage than good.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the one we just shot recently over the winter, last winter, excuse me, was Inspiration. Again, Emily Alatalo is the lead of that. Wonderful piece about a writer who has this series of books called Grinning Charlie. And you know they've been developed into movies, and she's done with it, very much done with it. But they want her to do one more book.
Okay.
And a whole bunch of things spiral out of control. She's very much damaged in her mind as well, and murders begun to ensue. It also has the amazing Chris Carnell attached to that, you know, from My Bloody Valentine and The Crazies. He has a very strong...
Crazies, nice.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And a wonderful piece again. They also have in pre-production Bitter and one other film, which I can't mention.
Right.
We'll be talking about that another day.
Yeah, you know, one thing I find about you, Andrew, is you have, you know how to find the directors. I mean, your body of work, you are a type of actor that won't take anything. There has to be quality. And that's one thing that I think with, I don't know, I guess that's a good thing for you, I guess. I mean, I know some actors take work any way possible, but Jason and the other Jason we're going to talk to about right now, Jason Whittier, I think, is a fantastic guy. Waterfront Nightmare. I interviewed Jason and the cast members of the film, and of course you couldn't make it. Right. But go ahead and give your experiences about Waterfront Nightmare.
Waterfront Nightmare was such a great shoot for me. It was almost like being on vacation. I mean, we had this epic property that we were on, this 8-frame house with a massive lake. We were able to stay in the house that we were shooting in, which was very, it was great for the production. Everyone got along like, peas and carrots. I got to work with Keith Lee, a wonderful actor. He actually was on Oz, and he's worked with James Franco on that. The new Oz, Wizard of Oz. Wonderful, wonderful actor. I played a Southerner. He's a real kind of creepy fella, man. You just don't know where he's going or what he's doing. And you think he's maybe one of the killers.
And Ricky, let's talk about Rick Montgomery Jr. I mean, I know he had a small part. He's an Ohio boy.
Yeah.
I love Rick. Rick's a fun guy to talk to. And your experiences with Rick, what do you think?
Rick,
is he a punk?
Rick would call me a punk. Rick is a great friend and a brother of mine, too. I've worked with Rick now on 3 films. We first met at the final callbacks for Squid Men, and then came after we found out we were both cast. We met each other again in Florida for a film called Quarter Lifers, written by Adam Fortner.
Yeah.
Wonderful film. Rick is one of the most passionate, amazing actors to watch on film, on screen. He's just enigmatic. You can't take your eyes off the camera. A pleasure to work with, giving, listening, just a wonderful man. And then, again, Waterfront Nightmare. So that's 3 we've got together, plus there's others in the works.
No, how about Backwater?
Backwater, yes. Backwater, written and directed by Mr. Christopher Schrack.
Yep.
Another man with a big brain, and then I am honored to say he's my friend. The first film that I met Christopher on, I'm going to go back before we talk to Backwater, was Elysium. And that film, which you can also get, it's distributed by R Squared Films. It's a very dark film. It follows the story of this young girl who's running from her past. She comes across me, and I'm of course not a very nice guy to her, and a battle ensues. It's kind of a mystery story. I don't want to give away too much. With Backwater, which also stars Leona Warner Gray and Justin Tully, they're the leads. That was a wonderful piece as well, which is now in the final process of, has a rough cut. They're releasing that. You can find the trailer online. I play you don't know if he's a bad guy or a good guy. And again, I can't say too much. The thing with Christopher's films are that they're so cryptic. You know, he really gives away as little as possible.
Right.
He allows, and he writes as little as possible. He allows the actors to display what's going on through their facial expressions, through the camera work, and essentially it's these lovers go out into the woods, you know what I mean, on a vacation, and they come across this scary fella. Things happen. That's me.
You know, it's funny you said that because you mentioned about being a not so nice guy.
Yeah.
That's not too far from your real life, is it?
Gosh, no. I think I'm a softie at heart.
You're a good dude. Now, Cody Knox.
Cody.
The Mr. Pittsburgh boy, Washington, PA, actually. Yeah. Lucifer's. I interviewed him, of course, too, and you were involved in that there, too. I was also asked to come out to check you guys out on set. I couldn't make it. I also was asked to, I'm not going to mention the name, but he asked me to do for roll call on his newest film. I didn't make it out there either, of course, being here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But your experiences with Lucifer's, what was it like for you?
It was pretty intense. Again, I play Jacob Wilcox is this like an ex-priest detective. The church uses me to essentially find out if exorcism, like if people are really possessed. They have me go out there and check it out to find out if it's real or not. And I find that this girl is indeed possessed, and I have to help excise this demon. And my research, of course, the first thing I went to William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist, you know, first and foremost. And, you know, and it was absolutely not a copy of that at all, you know what I mean? So I don't want people to think that.
Right.
But that was a wonderful experience, and I was able to meet a great friend of mine, one of the producers, Raymond Wade, who I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yep. We talked the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about Lucifer's, what Cody said to me is, you know, he's tired of The Exorcist. He wanted to go a different way with it. Now, I'm kind of anxious to see exactly what he meant by that. Right. But Cody has a background as a preacher, am I correct?
Yes, he does.
So it kind of helped out in the storyline of, you know, because some movies, they go a little too far on what a preacher actually does, but I'm anxious to see that one. You mentioned the movie earlier that I'm dying to see. Now, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it or not. Squid Man, are you allowed to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Now, people, if you see this video, he plays a character, a superhero, I guess you could say a down-in-your-luck loser, dipshit.
Pretty much.
And the costume I thought was cool. So go ahead and give the viewers your interpretation of that film you're in.
Right. Squid Man, which was written by and directed by Charlie Klein and produced by Mr. Bill Ellis. That was a role again that I fought for. You know, I mean, there were several thousand actors that went out for that, and I mean, because the script, it was so brilliant, and it was so funny, and I assumed right off the bat there was no way I was going to get it. You know, it's just one of those.
Right.
Sure enough, I got, you know, they flew me into Pittsburgh for the final callback, as I said, when I met Rick Montgomery, got the part. And I remember reading the script, I'm thinking, if Steve Carell, if they had the budget, is the guy who should be playing this role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, no slam towards you, but I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off, but the pictures that I've seen and the quality that I've seen, it looks like a top dollar movie.
Right.
So go ahead, I apologize.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, there's great ones out there like Stupid, I think is the one with Super and Defendor, and I've seen those. The thing I think that's going to stand out about Squidman is, basically I'm my own worst enemy. My general sense of apathy and lack of caring about anything. He's a raging alcoholic. The only powers he can do is squirt ink on people, so he winds up angering his criminals and winds up getting his butt kicked. He becomes a superhero by accident. And not by accident, but he becomes an A-list superhero by accident. He's always been pretty much a B-lister.
It's one of these klutzy type. Made a mistake and be a hero over it.
That's exactly. He made a mistake, saves the day, and then gets elevated to this whole other level. And then slowly he gets stripped down by the man. I can't mention, it's killing me.
I know.
Especially because Rick wants me to say it.
I know.
Again, Rick Montgomery Jr. is in that with me, and he is saying he plays my nemesis.
Now, I'm sorry. Most superheroes have the red, the blue, but you have the purple and yellow.
Purple and blue.
Purple and blue, excuse me. I'm colorblind, by the way. No,
That's
I'm not. But I'm sure. Now, is there any? Do you know when it's going to be released, or roughly?
Next year.
Next year.
Next year. Yeah.
Now, is there anything else any other films that I might be missing that you want to talk about?
Well, there's a host out there of films. Let me see. We have Quarter Lifers is one that I mentioned earlier with Adam Fortner. Another wonderful film. It's going to be released very soon. It's about generally it's about a bunch of guys, 30, getting ready to cross over into the 30-year-old age, and they're at that quarter life point. Like, what do I do? Do I get a job? Do I believe this illusion where I have to get a job and knuckle up and live a certain select lifestyle? Right. So they have these questions. I play the character Dylan, who's this player, pretty much, jumping around from girl to girl. I'm the only one who really doesn't get any closure in the film. Everybody else has a full circle. So I'm one left, and it's funny, at the end of the film, actually, Adam edited it the way so that you just see me, and it fades to the darkness. All of those guys get to go, together and leave together, and Dylan gets left behind, sort of. That was a wonderful piece. Another one in Florida. A lot of good work coming out of Florida.
Right. There's a film that we talked about earlier. I just remembered. Big Ed just part out. You showed the trailer for. I forgot the name of it already.
Yes. Crimson Winter is a film that's coming out next year. It's a vampire film, which has a completely different take on the vampire genre. It was written and directed by lead actor Brian Ferreter. And essentially, over a 700-year period, it follows the story of Elric and his bloodline. They're in France, and my family are vampire hunters. And they are, we are ardently trying to rid the population of these vampires.
No Twilight shit, right?
Nothing like Twilight.
Right.
So what Elric does is he crosses over the sea to hide out in the new country, America, and to basically hide. They don't want to kill humans anymore. He's done. He has a very humanistic approach toward the vampire genre, Brian. Okay. And it made the hunters, the humans, myself and late Keith Carlson, we are the ones who look like bad guys. Okay. They're feeding on the mule deer population, hiding out in the woods, not killing humans, but these hikers go up there and stumble across the vampires' paths, see them, while we're tracking the vampires, and a whole big battle ensues.
So you can say it's something like a graphic novel type deal? I mean, it's not like...
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do a shameless plug here, but I'm a publicist for a film, Renfield the Undead. Now, in my review, I mentioned I hate vampire movies, which I do. But if it's like a graphic novel type deal, if it's not like that Twilight or that that lovey-dovey, not dirty vampire stuff, I'm not a fan of that. If it's something that, with the way you're talking, I might have some interest in. So, I might check that one out myself.
Yeah, there is a love story involved in it, but it's not about the love story. But you need that. The audience needs more than just one view to follow the film. Sure. You got to keep people's attention. And having a love story is always important because you can always cater to the ladies. I mean, as much as there are guys out there who love that, that's wonderful. But you got to always be able to cater to the female side,
right?
Which is wonderful that Brian did that.
You're also in a film that I got sent a link to, 15 to Midnight.
Yes. Now,
in my review, it's a sci-fi film, and I said it's probably one of the best American sci-fi films that I've watched probably since like the Star Trek type deal. Your experiences at 15 to Midnight.
It was great. I was able to work with Mr. Wolfgang Mayer, the director, and Brandon Slagle again.
Nice guy.
Yeah, both of them, wonderful fellas, friends of mine. And Brandon wrote this amazing piece about, without destroying too much, it's pretty much parallel universes and how sometimes they cross over into one another.
Right.
My character, Sarosta, plays a man called one of the knowers. Essentially, we are the crew, we are responsible for making sure when any of these worlds cross over, we come in and repair the damage that has happened.
Okay.
And Brandon is, of course, one of these tortured guys. His other self is, from another universe, is messing up his world here in this, on Earth.
Right.
And we want him as one of the knowers, essentially.
Well, I like the film. I mean, I've seen it, obviously. One thing I thought was neat about you, I mean, that's probably the first film that I've seen you in. I've seen Fright movie after that scene, 15 to Midnight. And I thought the role that you played, which everybody has a comment about, good comments about, you played the man in a suit, the man in black. And I thought you pulled it off very well. And Brandon Slago and Devaney Pinn, good chemistry together. I mean, he wakes up he wakes up and his life's completely changed.
Right.
But it's a good film.
Yep.
How did you ever get started in the acting business?
Well, I guess, I was always a bit of an upstart growing up. I was, in and out of trouble my whole life, I would always, the best thing, the most fortunate thing for me is that I have a mother and father who have always supported me, nurtured me, taken care of me, and they never gave up on me and stayed by my side even when I was down and out. And getting myself back up on my feet, I went to college, and first time I ever, I took an acting class just because I wanted to take a speech class and see if I could do it, whatever. And I walked into the theater for the first time, the black box, and I felt like I was walking into church. It felt like this was my home. This is, it's a sacred ground, and I know all actors know exactly and understand what I'm talking about.
Right.
And it basically took all of my anxious energy, my nervous energy, my hastiness, and it brought it like into a laser focus, and it gave me a positive way to, exist or put my energy.
Express yourself.
Express myself, exactly. Thank you. And I never turned back, And I feel like when the camera's on or when I'm working on set, that's the time that I get it right.
We mentioned earlier about the connection that we had with Red Run, and I thought that was really unique because we talked before that and we didn't even really think about it, and we had some phone conversations before, and we did do an audio interview, but it kind of got crazy, so I figured we'll put that away for a while. But your style, like everybody says, you have that stare. You have that stare where people get really intense, like you don't blink. But now I know that's one of the things I think you do that really makes you and Rick and other people, you can do a role and you can really be intense about it, and you're versatile. And I mean, I've only seen 2 films that you're in, but I'm meeting you in person right now. I mean, apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Right.
But anyways, you're a very good actor, and I do want to thank you for inviting me up here to Reading to do this interview. This is my very first time on camera. I don't know how dumb I'm going to look, but I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. You look wonderful, Scotty. What are you talking about?
Oh, man, please. All right, Andrew, I want to thank you very much for taking time for me to come up here to meet you and do this interview. I really appreciate your time.
Dude, it was my pleasure. Thank you, Scott. I also want to just give a quick shout out to my mom and dad. I love you guys. You're my number one. And, of course, the Almighty Father, God, for creating me.
And I want to thank my listeners on my podcast, it's Gruesome Herzog. The website is www.gruesomeherzogpodcast.org. And for the interviews, thevoiceofhorror.com. And I want to thank everyone for making this interview possible. Thank you.